The mental problem issue in this country is getting the level of attention it needs, finally. Much of violent crimes in this country has been caused by lack of attention for the treatment, and also national focus hasn't been there for way too long. So the current Congress has finally pointed out this issue and proposed a red flag law. While it is great that we finally are getting some attention that has way been overdue relating to violence in America, is it though truly the right kind of attention? And what are the consequences of such actions? Red flags for red flag law. Today in Powerhouse Tactical. So, the official name for the red flag law is Extreme Risk Protection Order and Violence Prevention Act. Well, that's a mouthful. And it was proposed by Senator and a formal presidential candidate, Marco Rubio of Florida, in early 2019. It hasn't been but just a few months, but it is now gaining national attention with bipartisan support for the proposal. Even Trump administration has been positively reviewing such proposal. So what does the red flag law actually do? Well, it allows the police or family members, or anyone else for that matter, to file a petition for the government to temporarily remove firearms from a person who may present a danger to himself or others. Pretty simple. Once the petition is filed, a judge makes the determination to approve and issue the order. So far, 17 states have already passed such laws. It has been proposed in 4 more states, and 29 states have yet to make any actions regarding such bill. So California, Connecticut, Indiana, Oregon, Washington, and Washington, D.C. all had their versions of red flag laws for a number of years now. If you're afraid that one of your family members is seriously suicidal, or homicidal for that matter, he has a gun that he might use to do that, you would go to the police, file a petition for the government to confiscate his gun, to keep him safe. While he may use other methods to try committing suicide, gun accounts for more than half of all suicides in this country. Also, many other methods fail quite often, whereas suicide with guns are pretty much one-time deal. This will significantly decrease the senseless ending of life by oneself. Also, not to mention people who pose high risk of danger to others will be part of this process as well. Within weeks of this law being passed in Florida, for example, the brother of the Parkland shooter had been a subject of this law and had his firearms removed from his possession, making sure that he does not walk in his brother's footsteps. Who knows how many lives were saved by this? Well, so far, the red flag law sounds great, doesn't it? It sounds like common sense law that everyone seemed to have been looking for and end up saving many lives, like seatbelt law, helmet law, and even baby car seat law, to mention a few. Other laws that we allow our government to enforce. We are willing to deal with some inconvenience for the greater good, right? Safety of me and my loved ones will be secured by these types of common sense laws. While it's a little bit inconvenient, it saves lives, right? Well, before we jump to conclusions, there are some questionable and frankly quite concerning aspects of this types of laws. The law looks fine on the surface. We as Americans should be aware of the red flags regarding this law. There are 5 major red flags that should concern every American, in my opinion, about the red flag law. So this law is designed to potentially allow an overreach by the government. Obviously. According to a study by Duke University between 1999 and 2006, state of Connecticut had removed 20 guns from individuals per year. This number had jumped to 100 or more per year, more than 5 times the increase, starting 2007 after the Virginia Tech shooting. Were there really that many more risky individuals starting 2007 all of a sudden? 5 times as many than the previous years? High-profile tragedies are great excuses for ones in power to gain control over other people. This law gives them a tool to easily remove people's right whenever tragedies happen. Mayor Rahm Emanuel of Chicago once said while he worked at the Obama White House, "Never let crisis go to waste." Pretty famous line. So, speaking of people's rights being taken away, this law is very different from other laws that were mentioned earlier, like seatbelts and helmets when not. If you think about it for a couple of seconds, you'll realize that driving is not actually a right. We, the people, were never ordained by our Creator of the right to drive an automobile, obviously, or any other vehicle for that matter. So regulations that govern driving a vehicle, no matter how inconvenient they are, have no bearing on our God-given rights being infringed upon. However, the red flag law is a different story. Our nation's founding document, the Constitution of the United States, in its Bill of Rights states clearly that our right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Of course, it's not to say that criminals should have guns. Many, if not all, of the God-given rights can be infringed upon and taken away if you're infringing on other people's rights or harming or endangering others. The rights of the people may be infringed if a person has been deemed undeserving of such rights. We don't make that call. We have courts to decide that. When a person commits a crime, their freedom is taken away. Not only their guns, but freedom to sleep in their own bed. Depending on the severity of the crime, some people are stripped of that freedom for the rest of their lives. Life in jail. However, we cannot just simply accuse someone of a crime, then put them away in prison. That wouldn't make sense. That's why we have the Bill of Rights, due process. Our Constitution protects us from being wrongly accused. We are not to infringe on a person's rights unless we have exhausted all measures to keep them free. Innocent until proven guilty. That concept being provided a proper and competent defense as well. We even pay our tax dollars to provide a lawyer for the accused to be defended if they cannot afford one themselves. Even if we saw them commit that crime, I saw him do it. But our justice system is designed to err on the side of letting the guilty go free, then put an innocent man in jail. This is called due process. Taking someone's rights away without due process is not only unconstitutional, but it's downright immoral. People do commit violent crimes against themselves and others, with or without guns, knives, bats, poison, and so on. In fact, only 6% of all suicide attempts are attempted by guns. As for mass shootings, the Parkland shooter was a known risk to the community and himself, and was reported to the local police and even the FBI multiple times over many months, yet the law enforcement had dropped the ball. Instead of addressing what steps are needed to be taken to make sure that the law enforcement are doing their job properly and better with the already existing laws, they are too quick to shift the blame to us for not having enough laws. This is just being lazy and irresponsible. If we have more laws. Even with more laws, if the law enforcement agencies and law enforcement officers are not doing their jobs and enforcing the laws, it really doesn't matter how many laws we have in the books. The red flag law did not stop the infamous San Bernardino shooting in 2015. Another mass shooting in Rancho Tehama in California in 2017. Thousand Oaks, California again, shooting in 2018. And many more in just the state of California. And they've had the red flag law in that state since 2014. Do you see the problem there? See, you were never convicted of a crime. You were never even accused of a crime. You were just, how should I say, concerned. Report was filed regarding your name. And now you have to go and prove it wasn't so? Does that sound like the opposite of what this country was founded on? Proven innocent until proven guilty? Not the case with red flag laws. While there are claims of some potential benefits that these types of laws bring, it definitely comes with many questions and risks. Frankly, very disheartening. While some lives may be saved, there will also be cases that these laws will cause people to actually be killed who otherwise would have lived. For example, July of 2019 in Arizona, an elderly couple had a son who was mentally unstable. One night they came home to find their drunk 33-year-old son in the house. After some words were exchanged, the son went into the house, grabbed 2 kitchen knives, then proceeded to threaten both his parents. The father tried to stop him from stabbing his own mother. During the struggle, the father was stabbed in the chest. Soon after, he passed away. How would the red flag law help in this case? Recently in Illinois, my home state, a man killed his own mother by stabbing her repeatedly with a friggin' samurai sword. Illinois red flag law had already taken his guns away a few months prior to the incident. Was being stabbed by a samurai sword multiple times any better than being shot? What about a 36-year-old man in Nevada a couple of months ago, killing a woman by smashing her head with a hammer repeatedly? The police later said that he had no prior contact with the victim, and it was just a random act of violence at a laundromat. In August of 2019, in Alabama, a man tried to kill his 7-year-old father. When the father fired his gun in defense, which led to his son dying, when you hear this type of stories, you have to review that and think to yourself and question yourself, should the 7-year-old man have defended himself with a knife instead? Or his son might have been better off by trying to kill his own father with some poison. Should he not have had that gun taken away when his son was attacking him? We need to continue seeking more attention to the mental health issues in this country. I think red flag law is a good try, but it's not perfect. It's far from it. We must come up with a proper solution rather than just any solution that sounds good to us at the moment. For example, focusing on a proper family structure and values that gets passed down onto our children so they can grow with more stability and proper values. It's time for us to stop the temporary so-called solutions that doesn't actually work and actually put us in more risks while it limits our freedom even further than necessary or we're willing to give. While some claims being made by red flag law sounds like a pretty good idea, when we start taking people's rights away without due process, people are forced to prove their innocence, and burden of proof of innocence is not on the state but the accused. We are starting off towards a very slippery slope. We are getting into the realm of you're guilty until you can prove that you're innocent. Imagine living in a country that anyone can accuse you of being guilty and immediately you are. Until you can, if you can at all, prove that you're innocent. That's not America, but it sounds familiar. When I study history, that sounds exactly like Germany back in 1930s and 40s. That sounds like North Korea right now. That's China for the past 70 years. That's the government running people instead of the people running the government. These are just one man's point of view, of course. If you agree or disagree, please, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Please comment below of your thoughts regarding the red flag laws in America. Let's keep the conversation going. I think that's very important. President and one of the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, once said, "I prefer a dangerous freedom over a peaceful slavery." If I may add to this statement, freedom is never dangerous and slavery never peaceful. Thank you for watching.